Right. So this first one, is for the women. It's for the ladies, and you're probably not gonna love it. But I realized after years of dating, I'm 45 years old, that I now understand why women are single. I'm on Hinge, I'm on Bumble, I've used the other apps, and it's more also just talking to women. But I feel like as a guy, you should really think back. If you the most organic way to understand women is if you have a girlfriend, you've had girlfriends, and their friends have an issue, a crisis with a guy. And their friend comes over and is like just talking as if you're not there because you're the boyfriend. You're always there. They know you, you know. I remember years ago, I had a girlfriend and her friend came over and had an issue with the guy she was dating that I think I met a couple times. And I thought, they were a couple, like dating for a year or more, like, oh, Rebecca and so. And my girlfriend at the time, they're talking, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there, I think I'm smoking a joint at the time. This is like 15 years ago. And she says, well, what about Matt at your work? Does Matt still want to fuck you? Remember that time you fucked him after work at that bar? I remember being like, wait, what? Did you just like basically ask her if some dude who banged her at a bar was still available to assist in her cheating on her boyfriend? And it's not, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, maybe if that was said drunkenly at a bar, it'd be kind of like, oh, come on, and you brush it off. But these were like professional women. And I was like around 30 years old. And I remember at that time thinking, they're just like us. But we know what people think about men. And so that's the main difference right there. But what I realized about women and why they're single, and I think that this is a pretty sound theory, because I think that if you really want to know one way to really like push your point across and win an argument, you have to take ideas that your opposition already signs off on, to use them as variables and ammunition to craft a narrative that they're uncomfortable with. Not on purpose. I mean, if it's true. In this, I believe it's true. Men seem to be more shallow with looks. I think men accept that. Money's a different topic. Men don't seem to get on their knees for cash, but that's not what we're talking about here. Women will agree that men are more shallow for looks, right? That we'll just fuck anything if the opportunity is there. Even though like the chubby chick with the big tits, which men are like, oh, that's a win, right? It's like, even if you're like, I'm never gonna want to see this chick again, you'll see it as a huge opportunity and victory if you can go date, if you can fuck them one night. So if you were to say to a woman, right, what do you think is more common? A man who's an 8 or a 9 is tipsy at a bar and brings home a woman who's a 5 or a 6, or vice versa. A woman who's an 8 or a 9 gets drunk and takes home a 5 or a 6. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say it happens on both ends. Everything happens on both ends. It's I can't think of something that just happens to, one or the other when it comes to dating and, the stories and such. But really, especially as you get older, the idea of a woman who's very good looking or obviously better than this guy over here fucking that guy is something that maybe happens at a wedding. Like she fucked the groomsman, she didn't really want to. But I think on a whole, when it's not a celebration, like on a random Tuesday night at a bar, if a dude were just like, I'm gonna go get a couple beers, and he had the opportunity to bring home a woman he knows he wouldn't date, would he be more prone to doing that, or would a woman be more prone to doing that with a man? And I think we could all agree that it's gonna be more common that a man does it. And women will say this like with this superiority, right? Like, well, look at how men act. Like this is another example of their immaturity. Maybe, who knows? I don't know. I think men are just trying to capitalize. It's the way we're kind of programmed. But the point is that people accept this, and it seems pretty real. It passes the sniff test, the smell test. Every city, every country, this seems to be the consistent. I don't know of a country where the women are out there just getting drunk, fucking so men, and being like, oh well, it's no. So the problem that women have then is that over the course of a year, let's take a woman who sleeps with 5 people in a year, right? So 3 of those men could have been men that were actually interested in her, like to date, you know, or to get to know on any other level. They could have actually been interested. Maybe, you know, could have went south, whatever, but they didn't have like an initial timeline of expiration before they even went in on it, right? They didn't have that. So the thing about women is that their sexual marketplace level, their experience over the course of, like, let's say a year, has 2 tiers, where men, especially as they get older, have 1 tier. The women who date us are actually like, let's see, you know, like let's see how it goes. I don't think women, I'm 45, I date women between like probably 35 and 45. I don't think the average 38-year-old woman out here who's like saying she wants kids on Hinge is going out with me because I'm so great that she just needs to bang me, but I'm below her. You know, because it's a woman. She can just go to any bar. And again, we're not going to, you know, argue that, right? Do you really think a woman can't go get dressed up kind of sexy, go to a bar and get laid? Do you really think she has to use Hinge? No, that's crazy. So let's say there's 3 guys that were interested in her out of the 5, and then the other 2, let's say, were guys that were in her neighborhood, you know, and they're like, oh, this chick is 1 mile away, like, you know, she seems like she'd be an easy lay. So now that guy, he doesn't want to date her, but he wants to go out, he wants to bang her, that's it. And I've done this before, and when I say that, I mean, even if the sex is wonderful, we go over to her house and we see things that we're like, oh my God, we actually have a lot in common. It's not going to sway us. We know that we could do better, and this is just like more like an easygoing, fun freebie to us. So those men, they don't want to go out with you at 6 o'clock or go to some farmer's market at like noon in Williamsburg or some shit. They want to meet you at like 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, pretend they're busy, go out, bang you, blah, 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 blah. Now, the women allow this because the men are objectively better looking. Now, think about when women get ghosted, right? And I've had a lot of girlfriends, and again, the friends are over, and I've seen these women talk about ghosting, like, oh, he ghosted me. And here's what women seem to think. They think, oh, he could have been dating somebody else, cheating on them, didn't tell me. Or he's on the apps, he's dating, he's good looking, remember, he's objectively better than her. And they just think, oh, he just met somebody else. You know, I've probably heard some other small things like that, kind of like are variations of that. But I've never heard, you know what I think? I think that he looked at me and thought like he could do better from before we even met. And he was just going to put in the effort to bang me once or twice. And no matter how it was, even if it was amazing, he was never going to stick around, even if he had no other person to fuck at that time. That's the reality of the situation. But they don't look at it like that. They never entertain that possibility. Sure, it could be the other ones. He could have been cheating. He could have met somebody else. But when women get ghosted, they never think this was his plan. Which means they think he always was giving it a chance. And that's the dangerous part. Because then women, if you ask them, like, what's their sexual marketplace level? Let's say the woman's objectively a 6, right? Or a 7. And she goes out with those 3 6s or 7s who are holding her hand, right? Going to brunch, doing the whole thing. But then she goes out with, or she gets fucked by 2 9s who just wanted to use her. So she looks back at that year. What do you think she thinks her level is? She thinks her level is those 2 9s. And look, men would be fooled just the same. Because the thing is, men have one group of women that date them, women that are interested in seeing if they're interested in dating them. Women have 2 groups of people they sleep with. The men who were giving them a fair chance, and the men who just wanted to use them. If you confuse the men who just want to bang you with the men who actually wanted to date you, you're not really approaching your correct level for a relationship. So yes, you could look at that fake Ryan Reynolds who works at the hedge fund and be like, hey, that might be a caliber of guy that can use me. But it's not the caliber of guy who's going to be introducing you to mom and dad, like in the next 6 months. That's never going to happen. And so I think that's where women get confused as to what their level is. Because whenever I have a friend go on Hinge, right, they always say they always say the same thing to me, which is, wow, there's so many beautiful women on here, like 35, 40. There's like a never ending amount. And I say, yeah, it seems good at first, right? Like, that's great. You want more of a chance. But then you have to think, like, why are there so many? What are they waiting for? We all know men swipe right on everything, pretty much. They'll give anybody that's good looking a chance. So you come across a woman who's obviously good looking and she's been on there for 2 years. You got to think, what is she waiting for? Because when a man could get like 10% of women on their nap, 1 out of 10, which most men can. So, I mean, that's good numbers. But even if he can get 10%, people would be like, well, dude, what are you, gay? Like, what are you waiting for? Like, women could get 80% of men, 90, and still be like, yeah, but I haven't really found what I'm looking for. And men look at that like, that's fucking crazy. Like, what? Like, these guys, like, all of them look like they would be good matches for you. Like, what are you waiting for a specific person that you know on there? Like, what could it be? And the answer is, it's this getting banged by the random men who are lying to them. Because if a man just wants to bang you and on a site, he's really not, he knows that it's not going to be successful if he's like, look, I'm above you, you see that, I see that, but you live a mile away, you look like you get like pretty drunk and party, like, want to let me come over and pipe it out? Like, even if there's a huge gap between their levels, she's out of self-respect is most likely going to say, nah, dude. So but that doesn't mean dudes don't do that. It just means they do it in a different way. So what they do is they come with this, I'm busy, let's meet up, and this. And the women look at it like, oh, this is a huge win. This guy's really good looking. He lives in my neighborhood, And it's like, yeah, those things are true. But at the same time, it's like, he just wants to bang you. And again, I say this from the beginning. It doesn't matter how cool you are. It doesn't matter what tricks you do in bed. It's like, he's looking at you going, no, I can do better. I can do better. And so I think the thing is like, women have to like kind of filter out who are the guys that are most likely never going to come back, and they knew that before I even met them. Because men, we don't have that. And to be honest, we would love that opportunity. I would love the opportunity to get used by a 9. But I could see how it could be detrimental if I go out there and I think, well, I want to find a partner, my level's at 9 when it's not. And then it's just I find myself getting humped and dumped by these women thinking, this might be the one. Oh, she left. This might be the one. Oh, she left. This one. And so, it causes confusion. It's kind of like going to the gym and like lifting with like big weights that look like 45-pound plates, but they're like those other weights, the plastic joints that are like 10 pounds. So you look at somebody bench pressing and it looks like they're bench pressing like 135 pounds, but they're really bench pressing like 80. You just have to actually read like how much it weighs. So that's really the reason why men and women aren't getting together, because of a man's shallowness. And I think we all do it. Like, I can get passed on by a woman who we would be a good level because she thinks she could do better than me, the same way a woman could pass on another guy because she thinks I'm her level or something, and it's not. And so it depends, but women, I think the troubling part is that they're just seemingly not aware. I think women are like, I know when I'm getting used. And I hate to say this, but I don't think you do. I don't think you do. Because I genuinely do. And I've run this by a couple women before. And the part that seems to get them is this idea of, what do you mean he knew from before he even met me? And even if the sex was the best he ever had, that he wasn't going to come back? Like, what? And I know it sounds too weird to them. But that right there is why women are staying single. Another thing with women too is, the idea that women unfortunately also need to think about, especially when you get older, over 35, children and how you advertise that on a dating site, like if you want them or not. Like, I went on a date with a woman the other day, 44, a year younger than me, good looking, and on her profile it said open to children. And I just thought, like, even as you get older, an adoption agency won't even, you know, you'd have to have a ton of money. They're going to be like, you're 50, you're going to be 60 when the kid is going into fourth grade. Like, you know, you'll be 70 when you're dropping them off at college. I don't know. I mean, I get that's good for a kid who comes from, like, you know, a father worth 400 million, but for the average couple out there, even with good jobs, lawyers, teachers, doctors, whatever, this is, you know. So I think that there's a lot of bitterness out there, you know, when it comes to that. But wrapping up, women, think about the different levels for what you want. It's like buying clothes. Not every outfit is a work outfit, right? Not every man is actually scouting you for a partner. And lastly, I could say is, I hate to say this, but information you put on your profile about things you don't want, we appreciate the honesty, but that doesn't sway men. Like, I have to say, like, I even know some Republicans, and I've heard women say about, like, Donald Trump, oh, you know, those Trump guys, like, they would never go against their boy and date a liberal. And I literally almost, like, I think I spit up, like, wine. I ruined a shirt when she said it. It was, like, a year ago, because I remember saying to the woman, like, oh, you really don't know men. Like, men see stuff on the profile, like, oh, like, want children. And I'm like, you really think the guy who doesn't want children is going to be like, oh, damn, this hot chick messaged me back, but I didn't see that. I'm going to give up the opportunity to sleep with her in like 2 to 3 dates because I want to honor her quest for children. That's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. And women could hear me and say that and be like, well, that's fucking rude and that's crazy and that's immature. And it's like, I just don't want you to waste your time. You know, it's like, there's reasons and then there's outcomes. The outcome is men don't give a shit about like what you write on the profile, like, you know, about what you don't want. Men aren't like, oh, damn it, you know, like, she doesn't smoke weed and I do. It would have been a good catch, but I guess I won't go out with her on a few dates getting drinks. Like, you know, the guy will just pop an edible, be high as a kite while he's sitting there with you. You won't even know it. So I do think that like women need to redirect their focus of men on certain things and not others. Like, instead of worrying about, like, you know, if a man is a male rights activist because he cares about prostate cancer and wants as much attention to prostate as breast cancer. I actually had that happen one time. I said, like, yeah, I hope, years ago, I said, I hope one day prostate cancer, it was during the Movember with the mustache. I said, I hope prostate cancer gets as much attention as breast cancer in the next decade. And she's like, well, aren't you the little male rights activist? Isn't this, it's kind of crazy, right? Like, this is, you know, it's funny. It's funny. I mean, I could give analogies, but what's the point? I mean, so again, women, just because a 9 banged you, you know, it doesn't mean that's your level to have children with. That's fucking crazy. You yourself know it. You say men are shallow. That has repercussions and implications on all of you. You know, again, because you say, I'm not going to fuck a guy just because he says, hey, I want to fuck you and dump you, hump and dump you. It's like, right. Maybe if men could say that and you were more open to it, you could say no and not be fooled as to who your future husband might be. You know, because, you know, it's, and I get it, right? It's like an artist, a musical artist putting out a 10-song album and 2 songs go platinum and nobody likes the other 8. You know, it's like, well, what are you going to want to be known for, right? What you're going to want to be known for your hits. So, you know, it's just like the greatest hits. It's like, well, you know, because one thing is funny, right? And I'll leave it with this. I think people will agree that the equivalent, like the match is like money for man and looks for a woman. Like you see like the billionaire, the multi-millionaires with the beautiful women, and right, and like you kind of see that's the match. So like a woman saying she dated these like really wealthy guys is the equivalent of men saying they dated kind of like a model looking chick. And not every man has come even close to dating a model looking chick. But every woman I come across has told me in the past, like, well, I could have dated a guy with a ton of money, but I wouldn't just like date him for that. I dated a guy who wanted to fly me to Paris and I wanted to. it's kind of interesting how every woman claims that she like almost date, or she did, or she could have had the opportunity to date a millionaire, but she chose not to. And it's like, number one, it's like, you mean humped and dumped for the weekend, or do you want to tell us that he looked like Danny DeVito? Like, it's like, it's weird. It's like us saying that we dated a model, but she was like a hand model, but we don't say that. We just say she was a model. Like, I do find it funny how women talk in these terms. Like, American women almost sound like Middle Eastern Arab men. Like, well, I chose her. Like, I remember when I was young, I listened to a rap song. It was Gangstar, and the rapper Guru rapped, "If she's the chick that I pick, she gets chosen." And my mother was in the room at the time, and she started laughing, as she should, like making fun of this. Like, I think she said, like, what, he went to the girls' store, and he was like, "I'll take that one." That's how women kind of talk. Like, well, yeah, I was gonna go for the hedge fund guy, but I didn't want to date a guy who like partakes in that macroeconomics. And then I dated a supermodel male, but he was kind of vapid, and I didn't really want to date the millionaire, because it was like he kept talking about his planes. So I wound up just dating the average teacher. And you're like, are you fucking retarded? Like, do you really think that you pick the men you want? Like, it's like men are tethered to the reality that, like, you swipe right, women don't swipe back. We know it's the same for them. I've had friends that are people that are very good looking guys that I've known show me, oh, here, look at all my messages. They're not writing back to these women that are like, hey, they're writing these fucking paragraphs to these men. But women like seem to pretend like they choose the man that they get with. It's like, no, the people who reject you force you to choose who you're willing to take from what's left. Same as us. We're not out there going to the girls' store, and you're not picking the man you want. You're not picking the millionaire so you can get with the novelist. Like, that's fucking stupid. That's crazy. You're not picking any of these men. It's the men who reject you. Like, if you've ever gone off on, if you've ever like, been dating somebody and you're like, all right, let's get off of Hinge at the same time, or Tinder, or OkCupid, or Bumble, whatever you're on. And you're like, I've done this with women, like, and I've never done the second part, which I'm about to say, but I've been like, all right, let's delete it together, right? But I've never been like, you know what? Let's look at each other's messages. Like, let's look at all the women that didn't get back to me that I matched with, and let's look at all the men that didn't get back to you. And the reality is, if you take 10 of the best of this group and had them all reply, we wouldn't be sitting here together right now. You have to realize that.